What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 27. I'm your host, Marcus, and in this episode, we are talking about a journey of truth. Now, it's actually funny because this particular topic, when searching for essentially a headline for this episode, I started thinking about some other different things, and then I was doing some research on like headlines, and it came up to me, right? It just popped in my head. It was one of those things, kind of intuition things that just kind of came up. I started like replaying a lot of the past couple weeks of what's been going on. And, when you reflect and do a lot of auditing, you realize that there are particular parts in your life that you're trying to understand, you're trying to piece together. And so over the past couple conversations I've had on different podcasts and talking with friends and family, I've looked at different things. And what is really interesting to me is, I've talked about, I don't know if I've talked so much on this particular podcast about it, or even in some of my videos, that, we always try to portray something to somebody else, right? We wear different masks all the time. And when talking about the journey of truth, right, there's a lot of different avenues and perspectives you can go on this route, and I'm trying to unpack a lot of those different things in this particular episode, because I've had a lot of different ideas about specific things that are going on in life, and I think ultimately the theme of this essentially is diving deep to what is your truth, right? Because a lot of times I think we are fed different things in life, and whether that's through society, our friends and our family, our beliefs. And I've talked about fear and how fear guides us in a way at a young age, right? When you're very young, you're taught the beliefs, what to do, what not to do, right? And if you go against those particular things, you get punished in some way, shape, or form. And being said, that kind of guides you. So when you get to be an adult, you don't have that parent there. Yes, you have the authorities and other figures in your life, essentially if you get carried away, right? But ultimately understand that they aren't there anymore. So the fear is really in your mind. And so it limits you to do a lot of different things. So you don't go out and challenge things in life because you are fearful of repercussions most of the time, right? Sometimes you may be badly damaged, right? You may have an event in your life that really changes your perspective and causes you to challenge particular beliefs and stuff that could come in your life, right? Whether that was through your friends and your family about beliefs about working in a 9 to 5, and that's just the way it was, or perhaps the way something is, and you never really challenge them because you're afraid of being judged on those things. You're right. You're afraid like you'll never lose out in life because of the fact that, hey, if I do this, right, it's everybody might see me different. And so it kind of goes back to what I was originally saying with the kind of masks that we wear in life, and how we want ourselves to be portrayed to certain people. And when you try to tie this all together, when you're looking at life, right, talking about the journey to truth, what is your truth? Because I think that's what I'm ultimately aiming this episode for, is talking about you define your truth, right? It's your world. What is your truth? You are given perspective. You are given a lot of other different things in life. The beliefs, all these other things, fear that guides you, essentially guides your life unless you choose to go against it and go outside your comfort zone, because you can been conditioned in a way that makes you turn things down. Because again, one, you believe you can't do it, right? There's that fear that, well, I've had a track record of it not working, so why would I allow myself to put myself out there? And that's another big thing that really holds us back, and I could probably do a whole other episode on that. But understanding that when you are looking for truth, what is your truth? Why are you trying to project something to somebody else? Why are you trying to not live your truth? And define what it is, right? And challenge things, challenge belief systems that you've had that you don't want to go against because you are fearful of the judgment from your family, from your friends, from society. and just finding your truth. What is your truth? And abide by those rules and things and beliefs and thoughts and ideas that you thought were your truth and they're not, you can change them. And I think that's where we get caught up is we don't realize we can change these things. And we don't realize that this is possible. And, when I'm looking and reflecting on a lot of different things in life, we portray ourselves. And I do this sometimes too, where I have to catch myself and say, hey, this is not who I am, right? I need to be forward about what I'm about. And if it's something that I am on the fence about, then I need to spend more time on it. And I know a lot of times I talk about inner reflection, and it takes a lot of work. And a lot of times it's easier to just run from that or essentially live a life, the dream life, right? And this is what kind of really gets at me, right? Once I got this particular perspective, I really started to think about it seriously and why I don't watch a lot of TV anymore, why I don't do a lot of different things, because of the fact you are looking at it, right? If you are watching TV, if you are playing games, or if you are reading a particular book, it's not saying it's bad, right? If you're reading a fiction book or something like that, it's not saying there's not a place for those, but if you do that so much to try to escape the real world, right, you're not facing your demons. You're not facing any of those things. It's easier to live a fantasy life than to live your own life. And if you find that is you, right, you're not living your truth. And I know inner reflection is hard, right? We have events that happen in our lives. And so these events, right, we mask ourselves or other people in our lives, maybe particular people we care about, and mask it so that they don't see what is really going on, because we want to be portrayed in a specific light. And I think, if people really truly love you, they'll love you for who you are, right? And if they don't, that's fine. You don't need them in your life. But it is exhausting to live a life that you are not true to yourself. Why? And this goes back to me, even when I was a kid, right? Like I used to be, I still am a very big geek in a lot of different ways. And I really enjoyed those things as a kid. But, when you get older and in high school, that whole thing, back in my day and age, right, it wasn't cool to be a geek, right? If you were labeled a geek, then, a lot of people would pick on you and make fun of you. And so being said that, I masked that. And I've gotten back to the point to where I'm open about that, right? I'm geeky. That's just who I am. And understanding that and realizing that it's okay. It's not, why do we label it as something that it is not? I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest idea to get here is being true to yourself. Let other people see that. If they want to judge you on that, then they don't need to be part of your life. This goes back to the whole thought and idea of making sure your environment is one that suits you. So this environment should be true to who you are. I think if there's people that come into your life, if there's any kind of events that happen on, everything should be true to who you truly are. You shouldn't have to hold any of that back. You shouldn't have to hold back the fact that if I portray this, it may be a sign of weakness. And I think now, day and age, especially me growing up, right? Like my father was one of the biggest macho guys I ever knew. And, he didn't shed a tear. He wouldn't do any of those things in front of me. To be honest, I have maybe seen my dad cry once or twice. And that was only, during my parents' divorce. And I think that was the only time I've ever seen him cry. I may have seen him cry one other time when my grandfather passed. But I mean, aside from that, like he was very, very macho and didn't show emotion. He didn't show weakness. And then even when I look at like my kids in trying to relay emotion, originally it was really hard for me because I had never seen that. I never relayed emotion and realized that, a lot of people want to say it's weakness. And, if you grew up in the 80s, it was always about, being the man and what it took, right? It was that lumberjack in the woods that worked extremely hard all day long, chopping wood, and then ended up, going home to his family, providing for his family, all these other different things, and they didn't show emotion, right? And talking about that and being your true self, right? Like showing weakness and realizing that that's because I like this thing doesn't mean I'm weak, right? Like I could say I like being plant-based. I like meditating, right? Now people might see that as a sign of weakness. Why is that a sign of weakness? There are tools that have helped me, right? I've been there to where I don't let it in. I don't let other things in, and I try to portray. In my younger years, I was very much like that. I try to always portray this macho image like my father was, right? And that's who I am. It's part of who I am now because I've been portraying that, but you have to understand that there are more sides to it. I think we all have these different layers, and we want to be seen in a specific light. And in my mind, again, if people in your life want to be in your life, they should know who you truly are, and you should tell them who you exactly are, right? I don't think anything should be held back. If you want to know, ask, right? And that's the biggest thing, and being truthful to yourself instead of walking around and wondering what lies you are telling yourself. Ultimately, is what it is. And if somebody found out a piece of information about you, would you be uncomfortable with that? And realizing this goes back to the whole life is short talk, and realizing that, being truthful to yourself really matters, and stop telling yourself even lies about who you are and defining who you are, and realize that you are whatever you are in the moment. Ultimately, because you're in constant creation is something I talk about all the time. And then you're not that high school athlete, or you're not that high school, you did a drama, or you played musical instruments, or whatever the case was back in the day. You are who you've been. All the essential effort that you've put into this point right now makes who you are now, in this moment, and that can't change over time. And maybe there was one particular thing that you really liked. Maybe you liked playing a musical instrument, but then you got older and you wanted to kind of mask that and hide that away from everybody because you were afraid of being judged for it, because it could be a sign of weakness, right? It wasn't a masculine thing if you're a man, right? And so a lot of times you push it off because you're trying to fit in with a different crowd. And then I think once you get older, you realize that the crowds really don't matter anymore. That it's more like, well, I'll find a crowd that matches who I am. And that's where I need to be. This is who I am. If you don't like me, well then, there's the door. You don't have to stick around. But tell me, and don't hide that from me. Right? If there's something you don't like about me, right? You're not going to run across people that you're going to like everything about them. I might not like everything about me, but it's just being truthful to who you are. This is who I am. I like these things. I don't feel like they're bad things. I don't feel like they're weak things. You should never feel like what you like to do is something as a sign of weakness. Right? Maybe you like stargazing. Maybe you like bird watching. You're like, man, I don't really want anybody to know that I do this. And I know I still do this sometimes when it's specific things, especially like when I started out Discover Ignite. Is like I didn't want people to know that's what I did, because I thought it was a sign of weakness. And even I continue to grow and expand, and even doing this video about this and talking about this, right? And realizing that I too need to get there. And essentially Discover Ignite has been my journey and change and all that stuff, and sharing those thoughts and ideas that I've had, not from just previous years, but even ongoing, and realizing these are still things that have to be worked out. Right. And I like to keep reiterating the fact that you have to keep trying to become the best person that you are. At least in my mind, that's where I want to be the best person that I can. When I leave this earth, I can say, you know what, I left everything on the table. Then I need to do that. And I need to push my comfort zone and talk about things, and talking about weakness, and being true to myself, and realizing that's who I am. And I think being true to yourself is hard, especially when you got to look at yourself and question some of the things that you've done in your life. We aren't perfect. We are far from perfect. And I think that's that's why we mask a lot of different things, because we feel like we have to be perfect to certain people, but we're not perfect. We make problems. We make errors, right? We're human. We're error prone. It just happens. Even through time, and I talk about being self-aware because it helps you define that from backing off of certain specific choices that you make in life, but still understand that it's a continuous process. There are reasons you do things that don't make any sense, and when some people and what is in somebody else's eyes, all right, they may not agree with you. They may feel that is wrong. They may feel that what you're doing. Maybe you're not working a 9 to 5. Maybe you've dropped a really prestigious job, and now you're going out on your own. Like, what are you doing, right? You wouldn't understand. That person would not understand. But I'm being true to myself, right? I don't want to be in a situation where I'm not happy and I dread going to work. And I spend more time at work daydreaming about what I would really like doing and pursuing, as opposed to actually doing the job. Being true to myself. I think you can get to a point in life, I think even at a younger age, I think I was more mature. I think I was pushed to be more mature a lot quicker when I was younger, because I became the man of the house essentially at a young age. And realizing that, you have to want to change. You have to be true to yourself, and being true to yourself will make you happy. Because a lot of times we live lives where we're not true to ourselves, because we feel like if I do this, then it's going to affect this and that and this and that. When you're talking about being true to yourself, right, and not relaying those masks, you have to be aware that you are portraying a mask to somebody. What's really important here is understanding that, being aware of the mask that you are portraying to specific people, and just be like, hey, you know what? If they deny me, or if they don't want a part of my life because I made this choice, you should give them that option. Right? And realize that, well, if it's meant to be, that person will be in your life, or that's whatever that thing is that you're going after, right? If there's a job or whatever the case is, and understand that, you definitely, you have to align those things to be true. And I've talked about this. I've had conversations about this where, when you make a choice, other people may not, a good majority of people may not see what you see, and they won't understand. Because even and I've read books about consciousness and the different levels of consciousness, and realizing that, some people get stuck, and sometimes it takes a life event to move you up to a different conscious level, and being more aware of what's going on essentially in the world. And when I talk about, when I was in my younger years, I felt like I had to grow quicker because of the situation, and realizing I think I've come to a different conscious level than I think most people are probably at, in realizing that I find that there's more in life than living what is being told. And I've uncovered a lot of different things along the way, and Discover Night has really been that on what I've uncovered throughout my life, and the events and how they affected me, and raising that conscious level, and still trying to be truthful to myself, right? Like, is this aligning with who I am? Right. And then that in itself takes a lot, right? Because you have that initial discussion with yourself, like, am I really living my truth? Am I really living what I want? What do I need to change in my life? And being upfront about that, right? And it's hard. I realize there's a lot of things you can go in at this, and you could ride the fence about stuff because you're afraid that if you make one choice, you lose all this stuff. Or if you make this choice, what if it's not as good as I thought it was, and then I lose all this other stuff? If you're not truthful to yourself, how would you know? You have to pick a side. You can't ride the fence on things. And I know it's easier said than done, because a lot of times maybe you don't want to hurt people. Maybe you don't want to lose people, because if somebody finds out about something in particular, right, you have to say, well, hey, this is who I am, right? And I've said things to certain people in my life, and I thought I would lose them. And sometimes, some people I did, some people I didn't. You have to realize that that's okay. If if you're going to judge me on some choice that I've made and I explain it to you, but you don't want to give me an explanation and you're just going to judge me on that, I think, that puts you at a different level in your life, a different conscious level. And I think a lot of times we are very sub level on specific things, in the fact that as far as conscious level, that we see things just as like headlines, right? We don't go deep. And I talk about, I had an episode about deep thought and deep thinking and critical thinking and how important it is. And I'm not just talking about solving a particular problem. I'm talking about, do deep thought about your life, about your morals, your perspectives, about the things in your life. Are they aligning with who you are? And I know this seems really frou-frou and stuff like that, but ultimately understand that in doing this internal work, it has really caused me to look at things very different in life, and trying to, again, be truthful to myself. Is this really what I want? No, it's not really what I want. But then, not only realizing that it's not what I want, is making the correction to make sure that it aligns with what I want. Maybe I don't know what I want right then. Doesn't mean I can't break off what it is that I didn't agree with and wait and be in a holding pattern until I figure it out. That's okay. It's not like do or die, right? It's okay to let things go. If they don't come back, it wasn't meant to be. Can it be painful? Yes, it can be painful. Whatever the thing is, any kind of change in your life is going to be painful. And I know a lot of times we try to avoid pain when in fact, you need to just go in and essentially rip the Band-Aid off and do it because this other thing is going to align more with the truth of who you are. And all these kind of these truths and everything, they line up with your destination, your purpose in life, and what you want to do in your life. And a lot of times, I don't think that a lot of people have essentially a purpose. I've gone a long time in my life without really having essentially a purpose. Right? I want to help people. I want to be able to do things, right? I love doing stuff in the stock market. I spend a lot of time in the stock market, and it's allowed me to do things in my life that I never thought was possible. And in doing that, it's also allowed me to come on here and help people align those things in their lives with what they want to do. It's not saying you have to go be an entrepreneur. It's not saying you have to go be on the cover of a fitness magazine. It's not saying you have to go, go out and be Buddha or anything like that. You don't have to be any of those things, but you have to ultimately understand that you have to find your truth, being true to others, being true to yourself, ultimately being true to yourself. And then when you know who your true self is, you let those other people know, this is who I am. If you want to understand the truth of who I am, and I tell you that you are not going to judge me. You do judge me, and maybe you don't want to be around me anymore. That's fine. Will it hurt? Yeah, maybe it will. This can ruin friendships and relationships and everything like that because of the fact that people may not agree with it. That's fine. And I know I come on here and I say it and I make it seem so like nonchalant, but you have to be that way when you approach it. Will it hurt? Yeah, sometimes it will hurt. Sometimes it hurts a lot worse than others. But again, there's a reason for everything. The closer you can become to the truth to yourself and be honest with yourself and the people around you and aligning that truth, life gets better. And for myself, and the reason why I'm talking about this is to make my life better, to live, to be happy, is to be truthful to myself and to the people around me. And sometimes that's hard, again, because we like to portray a mask of how we want that person to see us. We don't want that person to see signs of weakness, because a lot of times people may see something and think it's a sign, think it's a red flag of weakness because of beliefs and systems that they've essentially built their life on. And the same that you've built your life on and had to challenge things. And some people aren't willing to go that deep and challenge things. I spend a lot of time thinking about specific things in life. And, even a lot of the great philosophers, They spend a lot of great time just sitting and thinking. A lot of them sat by windows and looked out the window, just bathed in the view and the sound of nature, and just watched. It's quite amazing what just silence in itself, it can give you answers, which is something I didn't think was possible, and sounds kind of silly, but ultimately it is true. You sit there and you ponder and you think about these things, and answers come to you. Not the other way around. You aren't seeking answers. You aren't seeking something to fill gaps in your life, right? The answers come to you. You know what to do, and then it's up to you to start executing on those things to align with the truth of who you are. And following your intuition and developing that through the tools and stuff like meditation and breathing and stuff like that, and finding that and realizing when that's intuition is trying to tell you something, that you move forward, you back off, or you just go away. You let it go, right? You should never be chasing anything when you come to your truth. And that's what really matters in your life. Because again, it's hard to be truthful. You may have to do some deep work on yourself. And for myself, I ran away from a lot of different things in a younger age in myself that I didn't like to see. I didn't like the fact that I was a chunky kid. I didn't like the fact that people called me shy. And for a long time, I just was okay with that until I started making changes in my life. And then I started realizing that there's a lot of other different things out there that don't hold truth either, right? You aren't taught to how to think. You aren't taught to how to develop certain skills in life. That is up to you. But if you didn't know about that, if you didn't have a knowledge base of that, then you would not know. And being said, you need to be curious about these things and seeking truth. What is true in society? What is true in relationships? What is true in yourself? Questioning everything. And having that thought experiment that allows you to go down that rabbit hole and try to determine what exactly the truth is in your relationships, in yourself, in the things that you are pursuing. Are those your goals? Are those your objectives? Or are they somebody else's? Are you living a life because people are telling you that's the way it's supposed to be, or because you actually want to be there? And for no other reason than, yes, I want to be here. Right? I think when you get to that point, you should be able to get to the spot to where you say, is this where you want to be? Is this who you are? With confidence, you say, yes, this is where I want to be. Is it right or wrong in your mind, your opinion? It could be. For one person, you're like, okay, well, I understand where Marcus is coming from. From another person, they'd be like, I have no clue what he's talking about. He's off his rocker. Right? But it doesn't matter, because as long as I'm truthful to myself, that's what matters. And I'm not being worried about what the other person's opinion is. And it takes time. It takes confidence to be like, you know what? It's okay. You can have your own thoughts because you have your own life. You're coming from a different walk of life. You've lived and seen different things than I have, as have I. And this is what I have developed. It doesn't mean it's wrong, nor is your opinion wrong, because that is your truth. But this one is my truth. So remember to align those things in your life with your truth, whatever it is, and let those people know what your truth is. Don't hide behind a mask. Again, something I work on and I try to portray and try to be as transparent as possible on who I am and what I do and what I'm about. I have weakness. I don't walk around. I'm not bulletproof. Nobody is. But you have to still be truthful. Yes, you're going to have weak spots. And realize that. But that's okay. Or perhaps you like something, right? It goes back to liking something. It doesn't matter. That's who you are. That's what you like. You lose track of time. That is your purpose. That's something you want to experience in your life. That's okay. Doesn't matter what you think. If you think it's silly or that it has no value, it's your opinion. That is your truth. This is my truth. Establish your truth.